Carter Krishna are here for Beyond the 90. Gianni Infantino wants Russia back in international FIFA competitions. And I know people are tired of the politicization of sports. I sort of am too. Although I have to tell you, one of the things I've recognized in the last few weeks as the cricket that I'm covering, and if you are interested in that, please subscribe to the From the Pavilion YouTube channel. We're going to be doing some really cool things around the T20 World Cup, which starts on Saturday, and around Team USA, really with a U.S. focus. Everything is political now, and we've realized this with football, with Pochettino's comments and then Pep Guardiola's comments. But I have one retort to Gianni Infantino before we move on and talk a little bit about what's going on here domestically, which is Russia does not belong back in international football until they agree to some sort of peace deal. And I'm not talking about a peace deal that gives 25% of Ukraine and even more percentage of the resources over to Russia. Russian aggression should not be rewarded. They do not belong in FIFA competitions. They do not belong in any other international competitions. With that out of the way, let's discuss the continued labor difficulty here in the USL Championship. And unfortunately, we are now heading into the second week of February. There are no more meetings planned for this week, so there will be no resolution to this before next week. And I'm hearing that there has been very minimal progress. The sides are only about maybe $4,000 or $5,000 apart on minimum compensation. The licensing, they're still pretty far apart, and the healthcare, it looks like USL HQ has agreed to some sort of a phasing in of the healthcare over a number of seasons, to where by 2028, when USL Premier launches and you have an integrated pyramid, or supposedly an integrated pyramid, and supposedly 2028, right? Because let's face it, they're talking about launching this league in 2 years. I don't know how they do that. Although they pulled Super League off, I was very dubious about launching a D1 women's league as quickly as they launched it, especially when they had originally intended that to be a D2 league. But they were able to pull it off. So credit to USL for that. But I think more realistically, we're looking at 2029 or 2030. So there has been some progress on the healthcare front, but there has been no progress. And this is really important because I mentioned this before. The poison pill, which is the integration in any sort of agreement of unilateral terminations at the discretion of guaranteed contracts at the discretion of USL Championship clubs. There has been no progress on that. And that, to me, if I'm a player rep and I'm in a dressing room at a USL Championship club, and I tell my fellow players, my teammates, hey, to get a deal over the line with USL HQ, we had to agree to this, and I voted for it. If I'm one of my teammates, I'm ousting I'm ousting this person as the player rep. If I'm one of the players in that dressing room, I am trying to oust the leadership of the USL Players Association. So they are not going to agree to that, nor should they. Nor should they. We should not be moving backwards on the subject of guaranteed contracts. If a contract is guaranteed, it's guaranteed. If there has to be some sort of arbitration process or some sort of formula to allow for mutual terminations, that's different than arbitrary terminations. Under the current CBA, or the recently expired CBA, there is a provision about 3 mutual terminations that can be negotiated to guaranteed contracts over 2 seasons. Maybe you increase that number to 4 or 5, although that's still a little bit of backsliding. But that's certainly a lot less onerous than this idea of being able to arbitrarily cancel contracts and give guys maybe 2 weeks pay, throw them out of their shared housing if they're in shared housing, cancel their health insurance 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And we know, and if you're thinking, well, no club would do that. My club wouldn't do that. Okay, some of your clubs wouldn't do that. There are a handful of clubs that would in the USL Championship that are currently in the USL Championship. Now we're getting closer to the name stages of which clubs are the problem clubs. We're getting closer to that point. And when we get to that point, if you support one of those clubs, I'm happy to have the conversation with you. And I think our other writers at Beyond the 90 are happy to have the conversation with you about why your club is on that list. I've already named one of the clubs previously, so I'll name it again, which is Hartford Athletic. But they are not the only one. Now, this is by no means the majority of clubs in the USL Championship. If you're here in Florida, where I am, all three of our USL Championship clubs, we have three now because of Sporting Jacks, they do things the right way. Tampa Bay has historically been a standout for doing things well for players. Tampa Bay has actually been a standout in putting pressure on the league to do more for players. Now, of course, they have new ownership this year, so the previous ownership of Stu Sternberg, standout. Very good at this. But what about your club? Well, I'm hoping we don't get to the name stage, but I think we will, probably as early as 2 weeks from now. We're going to get into naming the club names, the specific clubs. And for those of you who might think, hey, you guys are tilting too far towards the players, too far towards labor in this, I don't think the players want to name names about clubs. I'm leaving that to myself and to my colleagues at Beyond the 90 to sort of educate fans. Which clubs are a problem, which clubs aren't. Which clubs are in the middle, too. There are clubs very much in the middle. Some of the names would surprise you. Okay, I've already gone on the record and said it on another show, on Daniel Feuerstein's show, so I will say it again. Maybe surprisingly to some of you people, some of y'all out there, you people, that's a terrible thing to say. I apologize for that. Some of y'all, this is what happens when you ad-lib without a script. Sometimes the wrong things come out. Birmingham Legion is one of the better clubs. Now, of course, you could argue the cost of living in Birmingham is significantly lower than other places with USL Championship clubs. That's fine. But you might be surprised because they were the team that finished bottom of the table in the USL this season. They had the worst, they had the least number of points of the 24 teams that competed in USL Championship this past season, the Legion. But they actually do things the right way. Part of that is Jay Heaps running that organization, former player in his own right. By the way, this may be something for next week or the week after. I found an old Jay Heaps poster, Miami Fusion poster, when he was a rookie. I had disliked Heaps because he played basketball for Duke, and I remember him. I just remember being deriding towards him. He scored a breakaway late in a 35-point Duke victory over Florida, my alma mater, at Cameron in the early stages of the 98-99 season. The Gators went to Duke. Billy Donovan's second season. And then months later, he was on the Fusion. And I was actually working in Tallahassee at the time. In those days, I had a very strange life where I lived half my time in Tallahassee. I lived half my time in South Florida. So I came back to South Florida. I mean, the very first game I saw Heaps play, and he scored a goal. And I was like, gosh, I really have to like this guy now. But I like Jay Heaps, and I think done a great job with that Birmingham organization through the years. So they are not a problem team. You might think they were one of the problem teams. They are not. I've named the problem team, Hartford. There are some teams that you would think are high level that are kind of problem teams. So I'm going to start naming teams in the future. But not yet. Not yet. Hopefully we get to an agreement before we get to that point. Because the reason I want to name team names is that I want fans to know, and our listeners, our viewers, our readers at Beyond the 90 to know whether their club is on the right side of this and they should just let things be, or their club is on the wrong side of this. And I've already mentioned the 3 Florida clubs are on the right side of this. Now, what about others? Well, we'll find out in the future. But the point is very minimal progress this week. No more sessions scheduled until next week. So there we are. And hopefully there's some movement next week. And that poison pill on terminations is still on the table, which is not good.